I was sitting in my office late at night, well past closing time, staring at the engagement ring sitting on my desk. Tomorrow was supposed to be my wedding day, the happiest day of my life. Instead, I felt hollow inside, like someone had scooped out everything that made me whole. My phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. No words, just a video file. I pressed play without thinking. The footage showed a hotel room, and there they were, my brother, Damien, and Jessica, my fiancée, tangled together in bed. The audio was crystal clear. "She was always meant to be mine, little brother," Damien said to the camera with that smirk I had seen my entire life. My world shattered in that moment. But that was only the beginning of the nightmare. Before I tell you how my own family chose my brother over me and what I did about it, drop a comment telling me where you are watching from. If you have ever been betrayed by family or felt like the scapegoat, hit that like button because you will understand this pain on a deep level. Subscribe because this story has a twist you will not see coming, and you need to hear how I turned my life around. Let me take you back to where it all began, back when I still believed in happy endings and thought family meant something. Growing up, Damien was always the golden child. He was 3 years older than me, charming, charismatic, and could do no wrong in my parents' eyes. My father, Richard, was a successful businessman who built a chain of hardware stores across the Midwest. My mother, Linda, was a retired school teacher who dedicated her life to her boys, though mostly to one of them. From the time I could remember, Damien was the sun, and I was just a shadow orbiting around him. When we were kids and Damien broke my toys, Mom would say I needed to learn to share. When we were teenagers and Damien stole money from my savings jar, Dad said he needed it more than I did. When it came time for college, Damien got a full ride to an expensive private university on my parents' dime. I had to take out student loans and work 2 jobs to afford state school. The pattern was always the same. Damien was a textbook narcissist, someone who needed constant attention and validation, someone who lacked empathy for anyone else. He was also a gambler, racking up debts that my parents always paid off without question. But what hurt most was how he seemed to take pleasure in taking things from me. When I was 16, I had my first girlfriend, a sweet girl named Melissa from my chemistry class. Within a month, Damien had charmed her away from me, then dumped her 2 weeks later just because he could. In college, I landed an incredible internship at a tech company, but Damien called the hiring manager and told them lies about my work ethic. I lost the opportunity. 5 years ago, I finally saved enough to buy a new car, something I was incredibly proud of. Damien borrowed it for the weekend and totaled it in an accident. My parents paid for his lawyer when he got sued, but they never helped me replace my car. By the time I was 30, I had learned to keep my distance. I moved to a different city for work, became a software architect at a growing tech company, and tried to build a life separate from the toxic dynamics of my family. I still called my parents on holidays and visited occasionally because I felt obligated, but I kept Damien at arm's length. I thought if I just stayed away, if I just built my own life far from his shadow, I would finally be free. I was wrong. 3 years ago, I met Jessica at a technology conference in Chicago. She was a marketing manager for a startup, brilliant and beautiful, with long brown hair, green eyes, and a smile that lit up the whole room. We connected instantly over terrible conference coffee and boring keynote speeches. That first conversation stretched into dinner, then into a weekend exploring the city together. When the conference ended, we promised to stay in touch, and we did. Long distance was hard, but within 6 months, Jessica relocated to my city for a better job opportunity. We moved in together after a year, and I had never been happier. Jessica understood my complicated family situation. She listened when I talked about growing up in Damien's shadow, about always being the scapegoat, about my parents' blatant favoritism. "You deserve better than how they treat you," she would say, holding my hand across the dinner table. I thought she truly got it. I thought she was different from everyone else who had let me down. 6 months before everything fell apart, I proposed to Jessica in the park where we had our first real date after she moved to town. I had planned it for weeks, arranging for a photographer to hide nearby, setting up a picnic with all her favorite foods. When I got down on one knee and opened the small velvet box, she started crying immediately. "Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes," she said, and I slipped the simple diamond ring onto her finger. In that moment, I genuinely believed my life was finally going in the right direction. I had escaped my toxic family, built a successful career, and found the love of my life. We set the wedding date for 6 months later, giving us time to plan something small but meaningful. After the engagement, I knew I had to introduce Jessica to my family properly. We had met them briefly before, but this was different. This was announcing our future together. The dinner at my parents' house was tense from the start. Damien was there, unemployed again after another failed business venture, living in my parents' guest house. He turned on the charm immediately when he saw Jessica complimenting her dress, her hair, her career. "Adrian, you really outdid yourself this time," he said with that smile that had fooled so many people before me. I felt uncomfortable but brushed it off. Jessica seemed charmed by him, laughing at his jokes, engaging in conversation. I told myself I was being paranoid, seeing threats where there were none. As we planned the wedding over the next few months, Damien suddenly became very involved. He volunteered to help with arrangements, saying he wanted to support his little brother's big day. I should have seen it for what it was, another opportunity to insert himself into something that was mine, but Jessica thought it was sweet. "He is really trying to be a good brother," she would say. "We should let him help." So Damien started coming over to our apartment more frequently, always with some excuse about wedding planning. He would show up when I was at work, spending hours with Jessica going over seating charts or centerpiece options. I came home early a few times and found them deep in conversation, but they would go quiet the moment I walked in. Just discussing wedding details, Jessica would explain with a smile that did not quite reach her eyes. 2 weeks before the wedding, something shifted. Jessica became distant, pulling away from me physically and emotionally. When I tried to initiate intimacy, she said she was tired or stressed about work. She spent more time on her phone, angling the screen away when I walked by. I asked if everything was okay, if she was having second thoughts about getting married. She assured me she was fine, just overwhelmed with all the planning and her job responsibilities. "I am sorry, babe," she said, kissing my cheek. "Once the wedding is over, everything will go back to normal." I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. So I ignored the knot in my stomach that told me something was very wrong. The night before my wedding, I was at the office, finishing up projects before my 2-week honeymoon. It was 9:30 in the evening, and the building was nearly empty, except for the hum of computers and the occasional footsteps of the cleaning crew. I was exhausted, but also wired with nervous energy about the next day. My phone buzzed on the desk and I glanced at the screen. Unknown number. The message had no text, just a video attachment. My finger hovered over it for a second before I pressed play, expecting maybe a prank or spam. The video opened on a hotel room and I recognized the logo on the notepad by the bed as one of the upscale places downtown. Then I saw them, Damien and Jessica in bed together, their bodies intertwined in a way that left no doubt about what was happening. The camera angle suggested it had been hidden, maybe on a dresser or shelf, capturing everything. The timestamp in the corner showed it was from 3 days ago. I watched in frozen horror as Damien said directly to the camera, as if he knew someone would see it. "He never deserved you anyway," Jessica's voice responded. "I know, but the wedding is already planned." Damien laughed. "So what? Tell him the truth. Tell him you love me." Jessica sighed. "I will after the wedding. I cannot deal with the drama now." My hands started shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. My first instinct was denial. This could not be real. It had to be edited, a deepfake, some kind of sick joke. But as I replayed the video, studying every detail, I knew it was authentic. The way Jessica tucked her hair behind her ear, the scar on Damien's shoulder from a childhood accident, the sound of her laugh that I had fallen in love with, it was all real. Every frame was real. I ran to the bathroom and threw up my body, rejecting the reality of what I had just seen. When I returned to my desk, I watched the video again, torturing myself with the confirmation that the two people I had trusted most had destroyed me. I do not remember the drive home. My mind was blank with shock and rage operating on autopilot. When I pulled into the driveway at 11 at night, the lights were still on inside. I walked through the door to find Jessica on the couch in her pajamas watching some reality show on television. "Hey baby, you are home late," she said with a bright smile. "Want me to heat up some dinner for you?" I did not respond. I just pulled out my phone, walked over to where she sat, and pressed play on the video. The color drained from her face instantly. "Adrian, I can explain," she started, but I cut her off. "Explain what?" I asked, my voice dangerously calm. "That you have been sleeping with my brother, that you were planning to tell me after our wedding, after I married you." The tears started immediately. "It just happened," she said, as if that made it better. "I did not mean for it to happen. I stared at her, this woman I had planned to spend my life with, and I did not recognize her. How long? I demanded. She looked down at her hands. 6 months. 6 months. Since right after we got engaged. My brother had been sleeping with my fiancée for half a year, and I had been too blind to see it. Damien started it, she said, as if shifting blame would help. He came over that first time to talk about the wedding, and he was so charming and understanding. He said you did not appreciate me enough, that you took me for granted. It was not true, but hearing her say it felt like being stabbed. He just understands me in a way you do not, Adrian, she continued, and that was when something inside me broke completely. We are supposed to get married tomorrow, I said, my voice rising. Tomorrow, Jessica. I know, she whispered, fresh tears streaming down her face. I was going to tell you after the honeymoon. I promise I was. After the honeymoon, I repeated, incredulous. You were going to marry me, go on a honeymoon with me, and then tell me you had been having an affair with my brother for 6 months. Are you completely insane? She reached for my hand, but I jerked away. Adrian, please, we can work through this. We can go to counseling. I love you. No, I said firmly. No, you do not. You do not betray someone you love like this. Then she dropped the final bomb. There is something else, she said, her voice shaking. I am pregnant. The words did not register at first. What I am, 8 weeks pregnant, she said, meeting my eyes. It is Damien's. The room started spinning. I felt like I had been punched in the stomach, all the air rushing out of my lungs at once. My brother had not just stolen my fiancée, he had gotten her pregnant. Pack your things, I said quietly. Jessica, please. Get out of my house, I said louder. Pack your things and get out right now. She started sobbing, but I did not care anymore. I walked to the bedroom, grabbed a suitcase from the closet and threw it at her feet. You have 20 minutes. She collected some clothes and toiletries, crying the whole time, trying to apologize, trying to explain. I stood by the door in silence, watching this stranger pack up pieces of the life we were supposed to share. When she finally left, dragging her suitcase behind her, I locked the door and sank to the floor. The house was completely silent. I was alone with the wreckage of my future. The next morning I woke up on the couch where I had eventually passed out around 4 in the morning. For a brief, merciful moment, I forgot what had happened. Then it all came crashing back. Today was supposed to be my wedding day. Instead, I had to call the venue and cancel everything. The woman on the phone was sympathetic when I said there was a family emergency and I lost thousands of dollars in deposits. I sent a mass text to all the guests, saying the wedding was canceled due to unforeseen circumstances, no explanation given. Then, I called my parents. I need to talk to you both, I said when my father answered. It is important. Come to the house, he replied. We will be waiting. When I arrived at my childhood home at 11 in the morning, I found Damien and Jessica already there, sitting together on the living room sofa. Jessica's eyes were red and puffy from crying. Damien had his arm around her shoulders in a protective gesture that made me want to break something. My parents sat across from them, and the whole scene felt surreal, like I had walked into someone else's nightmare. My father gestured for me to sit, but I remained standing. Adrian, we know you are upset, he began, and I let out a harsh laugh. Upset, Dad, my brother got my fiancée pregnant. Upset does not even begin to cover what I am feeling. My mother spoke up, her voice gentle. Darling, these things happen. Love is complicated. You cannot always control who you fall in love with. I stared at my mother in disbelief. Are you seriously defending them right now? Damien cleared his throat. Bro, I am sorry this happened, but Jessica and I fell in love. You cannot control who you love. The casual way he said it, like he had not systematically destroyed my life, made my blood boil. You have been doing this my entire life, I said, my voice shaking with rage. Taking what is mine. My toys, my friends, my opportunities, and now my fiancé. Damien shrugged. Maybe nothing was ever really yours to begin with. My father held up his hand. Adrian, Damien, and Jessica are having a baby. A baby. Your niece or nephew. They need family support right now, not your anger. I looked at my father in disbelief. What about my support? I am your son too. Of course you are, honey, my mother said. But you are strong. You have always been strong. You will be fine. Damien needs us more right now. He is going to be a father. You need to be the bigger person here. The bigger person, I repeated. You want me to be happy for them. My father's expression hardened. This family does not need more drama, Adrian. You need to forgive them and move on. Damien and Jessica are getting married and we expect you to support them. Something snapped inside me. I cannot believe what I am hearing, I said quietly. You are asking me to support the people who destroyed my life. Adrian, do not be dramatic. My mother started, but I cut her off. Dramatic, I was supposed to get married today. To her. I pointed at Jessica. And I pointed at Damien, stole her from me while I was planning our wedding. And you are asking me to be okay with this, my father stood up. We are asking you to be family. Family, I said, backing toward the door. This is not family. This is a sick joke. I am done. I am done with all of you. Adrian, if you walk out that door, my mother started, but I was already leaving. I am walking out, I said over my shoulder. And do not expect me back. I heard my mother calling my name as I got in my car, but I did not look back. I drove away from that house and from that family, and I did not stop until I was back in my empty apartment, surrounded by boxes of wedding decorations that would never be used. The first month after the betrayal was the darkest period of my life. I cut off all contact with my family, blocking my parents' numbers, Damien's number, and even extended family members who tried to reach out on their behalf. I could not handle their excuses, their pleas for me to be reasonable, their insistence that family should forgive family no matter what. I sold the house I had shared with Jessica because every room held memories that now felt poisonous. The furniture we had picked out together, the paint colors we had debated, the backyard where we talked about planting a garden, all of it had to go. I moved into a small apartment downtown, bare white walls and minimal furniture, a space that held no history and demanded no emotional investment. I threw myself into work because it was the only thing that made sense anymore. Code had rules, logic, clear inputs, and outputs. Unlike people, unlike family, software did what it was supposed to do. I volunteered for every major project, worked late into the night, came in on weekends. My colleagues noticed I had lost weight, that I looked exhausted, but I brushed off their concerns. I was functioning, barely running on coffee and spite. Through mutual friends, I heard that Damien and Jessica had gotten married in a small ceremony at my parents' house. Mom and Dad had paid for everything, bought them a condo, and were preparing to welcome their grandchild. The baby was due in 6 months. Every update felt like a fresh wound, but I could not stop people from telling me. They thought I would want to know. They were wrong. One night, about 2 months after everything fell apart, I caught my reflection in the bathroom mirror. I barely recognized the man staring back at me. I had dark circles under my eyes, my cheeks were hollow, and I looked 10 years older than I was. In that moment, I realized I was letting them destroy me all over again. My brother had taken my fiancée, my parents had chosen him over me, and now I was letting them take my future too by wallowing in this darkness. Enough, I said to my reflection. They have taken enough from you. They do not get to take anything more. That night I made a decision. I would not just survive this. I would rebuild myself into someone so successful, so happy that they would regret ever counting me out.